Hello awesome YouTubers, I hope you're having just a magnificently awesome day today. Today I wanted to take a look at what I thought the best Generation 2 console games were. So Generation 2, as a reminder, is the one after the Ataris that came out with the Pong games, and Atari dominated that one, so they wanted to lead off and dominate the Generation 2 with the Atari 2600, the television, the ColecoVision, the Vectrex, the Channel F, the Fairchild, all that stuff. So basically what they wanted to do is they wanted to dominate that one too, just like they dominated the Channel 1 and the Pong generations. But Channel F by Fairchild came out first in the late 70s. So they wanted to get as fast as possible to market, so they rushed it and didn't have a really highly well developed game system. So they published in the late 70s too, a year later. And then they started publishing games then too in the late 70s too. They were a year behind the Fairchild Channel F, and they had, because they had a head start in the first generation, and then also had a bigger name and more money and bigger clout, they were able to bring in a lot of the prestige name things like big name talents like Pac-Man and that sort of a thing that were popular platform games to their consoles. But unfortunately, in arcade games too. But unfortunately, they didn't have the quality to back them up that they have some things would have because of the lack, because they rushed the product to market to compete with all the other things too. As a child, growing up then, my dad bought me an Intellivision. That was the first video game I ever played, although I did play Pong. It was an Atari Pong 2 from Generation 1, but Generation 2, the first thing I'd ever played and I had growing up was in television. So I played that heavily. I had like tons of games for it and stuff, and traded it with my friends. That sort of thing. We had some fun stuff. It was the higher quality one, fewer games, lesser titles, but it tended to have a higher quality thing because it took longer to publish, to market. And you can tell from its ads that it adds, hey look, our games are just a lot better than Atari's. Look at our baseball as an example by George Plimpton, their ads. So they have a better system, right? So that's how they sold themselves. And then ColecoVision came out and combined those two systems. It had a keypad, it had a joystick like Atari, and it had the calculator pad like the Intellivision 2. So it combined the best of both systems and was even better than the Intellivision, although it came out later too. So I've played a lot of those at friends' houses, at my own house, and stuff like that. So in order to make the cut, it needs to be a high quality game on the system, not in the arcade. So I'm going to tell you right now, Pac-Man's not going to be on this list. Pac-Man's a lot of money. It was a game, but it was way much better in the arcade and just wasn't really a great conversion to the Atari. So I'm just going to tell you right up front, Pac-Man isn't, but you will find some arcade games here too. All right, so you ready for my systems? All right, so we're going to have my top 10 and then 3 honorable mentions. I'm going to tell you the game, the makers of the game, and then the system for it too. So ready? Let's start with my first honorable mention. Honorable mention number 1. This will be 13 overall. It's called Tron Deadly Discs. It's 14 television. It was made by Mattel Electronics. Tron Deadly Discs is a great version of a movie, unlike E.T. that sort of killed the thing. It took the Tron movie, although the Tron movie was a bust, and the E.T. movie made a lot of money, and the E.T. game was a bust, and was one of the things that sort of overproduced and killed the industry. And Tron Deadly Discs was a much better game. So it's a reverse, if you will. But Tron Deadly Discs was basically an action game where you're playing a character and throwing discs around based on the Tron game. You are trying to block attacks that are go to you by blocking them with your disc, or you're trying to leap them up, and you can leap from side to side. And then at the end of every level, you have to kill a big giant bad guy. I think it's the Enforcer. I can't remember 100%, but it's the Enforcer from Tron. So there you go. So that's basically what's happening. It's basically an action game that's pretty strong. It's really good against 2 players. So that's the first honorable mention, number 13. Tron Deadly Discs. All right, so the next one is Space Invaders. For Atari, it's one of their best selling games. It's pretty good. This is definitely a classic. It has influenced a lot of games that have come since. It's made by Atari and made by them too. Good stuff. The classic idea of hunting things and so forth would be copied by a lot of systems out there too. And like Space Invasion, and so forth, and by other named games similar to Space Invaders with any similar naming, so they try not to step on that archetype too much. Anyway, so it's heavily influential, Space Invaders by Atari, and is my 12th overall game. Number 2, honorable mention for you folks. All right, number 3, honorable mention is the first one that's produced for multiple systems at the time. It's Pitfall, another bestseller. It was made by Activision. It's probably considered by many Activision enthusiasts to be one of their best games. It's one of the first platform games ever made. So basically the idea here is that you have a limited time and you're playing basically kind of like an Indiana Jones like character that's going about leaping over swamps and alligators, catching vines and that sort of a thing. Maybe you might be considered more of a Tarzan or Tarzan meets, but you're basically trying to cab stuff, find items, go into 2 levels, things. And again, it was made for Atari television, ColecoVision. It was made for all the modern systems at the time. In fact, 2 Ataris it was made for, because one Atari system came out afterwards. So after 2600. So it's fun stuff too. So it was made for a lot of games, and again, a bestseller. So that's Pitfall, my final honorable mention, one of the first major platform games that heavily influenced that genre. All right, so now let's move on to my top 10 proper. So number 10 is Shark. It's made for television by Mattel. So this game was a smaller, little game. It was not heavily produced because they thought it was more for kids, and they geared it to kids. And then it didn't sell a huge number, and then it sold massively, and they had to keep reprinting it. It's a fun game. It's just so much fun. It's more of a casual game because it's pretty light. Basically, you're piloting a fish, and you're trying to eat smaller fish than you. Not your size or bigger; those will kill you. So if they run into you, or the shark will kill anything, no matter how big you are, up to size 5, and that's your max size. So basically, you're basically eating smaller fish in order to grow in size and be able to eat more fish, and then you're getting points too. That's the game. Try to stay alive from the shark. So it's fun, it's fast, it's interesting, it's a great game. It's casual fun stuff that they thought and named it for kids, but it was a bigger hit than that. So that's Shark. 14 television by Mattel Electronics. Good stuff. So the next one was made for ColecoVision, and it is the Donkey Kong. It's definitely one of the things that put them on the map. Donkey Kong was a huge hit in arcades, and is the best, in my opinion, port of an arcade game to a system, and the ColecoVision is the best version. Now, it is on other systems too, like Atari or television, but those aren't as good as the ColecoVision one. I consider the ColecoVision one to be the definitive version of Donkey Kong in generation console form from arcades. So that's Donkey Kong. It's a huge hit. It was a huge hit arcade-wise. It was a huge hit also for consoles too. So I consider it to be the best one. And the best version of it is on the ColecoVision. That's Donkey Kong for you folks. All right. Number 8 is a game that might find some people to be like, wait, what? Really? You think that's the 8th best game? That's fine. If you go back and play it, you'll see how educational and fun it is. It's published by Magic, and it's made for the Intellivision. So basically what you're doing in microsurgeon is you have a minor globule of tiny little, it's almost nanite-sized device, and you are shrinking, and it's been shrinking down to a body of a patient, and you are going around and destroying things like cancer cells, brain tumor, that sort of a thing. You're destroying those sorts of things. Going around through a body. It's kind of like that Asimov story, or the movie that's based off of it, that's on a bigger size ship into a smaller size, and then you're driving it through, but you're also fighting off body things. So it's like that, but you're also learning about the body, about parasites and tumors, and you're going through the lymph nodes and then the blood nodes, and some things are faster than others, and you can't go through some things, right? It's definitely a fun and imaginative take on exploration for kids, and I think it stands up well. And then it's microsurgeon number 8 for Intellivision by Magic for you folks. All right, number 7 is a classic. It's a classic. It helped to put Atari on the map in a major way in 1979 when it was released. That, of course, is Asteroids. Asteroids was published. It's a very, very fast game, kind of like Shark, only better. It's very, very fast. The basic idea is that you're a central character trying to keep yourself from being destroyed by asteroids, so you can turn your ship around and fire in that direction and you've got things coming towards you of asteroid nature, other things too, later on, in order to keep yourself alive. That's it. That's it. You're just turning and shooting and keeping yourself alive. But it's fun. It's interesting. It's a great thing. It's a classic. It's turned into our arcade games. It was a classic. It was by Atari and for Atari. So that has Asteroids. Hitting number 7 for you folks. All right. Now we're at my number 6 thing. My number 6 thing is NHL Hockey. It's by APH Technology Consulting. They're going to be on here a few times because they designed all the early games for television. That definitely put it on the map in a major way. It's in the number 6 game, NHL Hockey. So this is like I mentioned before, because Intellivision didn't have a lot of the brands that made it good for things like pac-man and stuff like that, and it was missing out a lot of those sorts of brands. It would license basically anything. Tron was good, but it definitely would license anything like the Space Olympics or Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's got a lot of cartridges out there that have a lot of licenses just to see what they can do with it. And this is a licensing of hockey. It's the first licensed hockey game ever by NHL, and so that's cool too. It's a counter to the things you can do in hockey. For example, you can get tossed into a penalty box for sticking other people or tripping them. It's in there too. You're controlling different characters. You're controlling the puck, shooting the puck, controlling them, moving over to control the goalie. It's very, very smooth. It's on ice, so it's rough to kind of navigate, just like being on ice would be in real life. So it feels very smooth too. So it's very, very strong. And then it's NHL Hockey. It's my number 6 game overall. Now I'm in my top 5. All right, so number 5 is a huge game, like I mentioned earlier. Major League Baseball by APH Consulting Technology too, and also put them on a map in a major way for Intellivision. Again, this is the game they would sell by. They would show different things side by side from their baseball game, and the Atari baseball game would just show the differences in the game, and the systems too that were definitely different. It had words. It had people shouting out, "You're out." So it had speeches. It had the ball actually being hit around. You could control the characters, right? You can control which one you move to after the ball was hit to your area. It was good stuff. Strong stuff. It was a system seller for Intellivision, like I mentioned earlier. Put them on a map in a major way. It's my number 5 game for you folks. All right, number 4 is a game that didn't influence a lot of things. It wasn't a system seller, but it was such a strong game, but only because of one thing that was in it. It's called Triple Action. It was put out for INTVH, and it was also by APH Technical Consultings. And so basically this had 3 games in Triple Action that were mini games. The tank game, the car game, now those are charting, and the biplanes. Biplanes is basically you and an opponent are piloting planes into the air and then shooting them, or you can shoot a balloon, and whoever gets the most points fastest will win the game. That's it. That's the game. But what makes the game so strong is, first of all, it's a very simple game, but it holds up to this day. And when I was showing it off to some friends that were coming over to play Magic and stuff like that, they played biplanes for hours after they figured out how to play. It's great. Also, it's the second game that has it's the first game that has a physics engine. So a physics engine in a video game is very, very strong. Now, some might argue that actually it copies a physics engine. Technically, it's not an actual physics engine, but I don't care. It's a physics engine when you play it. That's all that matters. To me, it's very, very strong. That's biplanes for you folks. From a Triple Action cartridge. At number 4. And number 3, we're top 3 stuff. Here we go. Is Adventure by Intellivision. It was made by Atari. I'm sorry, for Atari rather. It was made by Atari Incorporated too. This is the highest starting Atari cart. It's a classic of classics. But I think in the 80s, it's definitely in the early 80s. It was a huge seller. It had so many things that put video gaming on the map in a major way. It basically spawned the adventure genre too. It's named after this. It's great fun. You can keep things from thing to thing. It has a lot of different contexts. It's very, very, very strong, heavily influential. And I would argue that it's the most influential game on the Atari system. That is, once again, Adventure by Atari. Number 2, you might want to argue is number 1, but it's not. Because this is a list of my favorite games by how well they play, not how influential they are. This would be the number 1 game if you were talking about influential games from Generation 2. and it's Utopia by Intellivision, designed by Mattel Electronics. Now, basically, what happens with Utopia? Some people will call this jokingly a Civilization 2.5, because of how influential it was on the civilizations and later god genres, like all the ones that would come later in the 80s for you folks. So I would consider it more a god game than a civ game proper. But basically what you're doing in Utopia is you and another person are playing against each other as people that are trying to control small islands that are getting money every year. You're getting taxes, you're getting money from rain on your crops that you're selling, and in the markets you're getting money from boating. So start with $100, and you can spend it on things like fishing villages, crops, fishing boat to go fish, and so forth. And then later on you can have hospitals and homes and farms, and for them to grow on, for you to sell your crops after it rains, and that sort of thing. So that's basically. You can also buy guerrillas to attack things on your opponent's thing, or forts to protect your things. And as you're not doing well, guerrillas will just happily naturally and destroy your things wherever they pop in. They'll just pop up randomly. And then you can hire PT boats to sink your opponent's fishing boats, and then also hurricanes will also come through too and destroy your boats if they're in the way. So you gotta move. So you might move. So you might lose you might lose your farms or your buildings that have to rebuild, or your boats if they're in the way too. So you have to make sure you're very, very careful with that stuff. So it's got a lot of different motivations and dials, heavily influential. That's Utopia for you folks. And then my number one. Number one, and this is not my most influential. Well, it probably is in some ways, but it's definitely my top game, and that's NFL football. It was published also for Intellivision by Mattel Electronics. So this is the game of games for footballs. Again, this is the first game to license football. It definitely is a different game than regular football. For example, football on Atari has all the screen on one screen, and you're moving, throwing balls. It's definitely an ugly thing. Here, you have 10 yards, and as you move down the field, it'll scroll, and people will chase you down. So you're having a much more realistic style of game. You can kick field goals. You can score touchdowns. You also, and this is key, you call plays too, right? And the key plays that you choose on offense or defense are very, very strategic. So you can try to out-strategize your opponent, just like coaches in real life are going to do the same thing too. So it's heavily influential for that reason too, in my opinion. Loved by many. And again, it's the first football game out there that was in the NFL that authorized them to. So there, that's NFL football as my number one. So those are my top 10 Generation 2 video games for you folks, with 3 honorable mentions too for you. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to sort of engage you with this further if you're interested in it further. What are yours, and what would be your order if I got mine in the wrong order? Remember, this is just my take. It's not your take. Everybody's got a different take. Just because it's mine doesn't mean it's the right take, right? Or any sort of thing. It's just my take. I didn't poll fans or anything like that. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed it. And then I want to thank you so much just for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video, because we all have so many things that are happening, right, in our lives. And we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. If you like this video, why not hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon if you're feeling frisky, and then also my videos too. Let your friends know about this video if they're fans of gaming Generation 2 stuff. So there you are. And then have a great day.